The sound that ripped through my living room was so piercing it rattled every glass in the cabinets, a shrill electronic scream that made my heart drop. My son's voice followed, trembling yet sharp. "Dad, someone's in the window." I turned, and there she was, Karen, our self-proclaimed queen of the HOA, halfway through the kitchen window like some burglar in broad daylight. Her bulky frame strained against the sill, her expensive blouse snagging on the lock she had forced open. The sight would have been almost comical if it weren't so terrifying. She wasn't just outside wagging her finger anymore, she was inside my home. The alarms my kid had triggered blared louder, echoing down the block, pulling every neighbor into the spectacle. My boy clung to my arm, his eyes wide with fear, and I realized this was no petty neighborhood squabble anymore. This was a violation. Karen's face was flushed crimson, her teeth bared in a sneer as if she had the right to be there. "You can't just ignore the rules," she hissed through the noise, her voice cracking with fury. "I told you that trampoline isn't allowed. I told you your mailbox doesn't meet the standards, and you dare defy me?" It was madness, pure, unfiltered madness. She was quoting HOA regulations while caught crawling through my window like a thief. And all around us, phones were already raised, cameras recording, neighbors whispering, pointing, and gasping. The woman who loved calling meetings about community integrity had just shattered it herself. I took a step forward, steadying my son behind me. "Karen, get out of my house before you regret it." But she didn't budge. Maybe she thought her position as HOA president gave her immunity. Maybe she thought nobody would stop her. But what she didn't count on was the siren already notifying the local security patrol, me brother-in-law's company. He showed up in under 2 minutes, headlights flashing, uniform sharp as ever. Karen froze when she saw him step out of the vehicle, clipboard in hand and body camera blinking. He wasn't just family, was contracted by the county to monitor unauthorized entry complaints. And then came the twist Karen hadn't prepared for. My son, trembling but determined, shouted, "She touched me," when she tried to push past. The entire crowd gasped. A neighbor's teen confirmed it, saying they'd seen her shove my boy away from the sill. In that moment, her crime wasn't just trespassing, it became physical intimidation of a child. She tried to backpedal, her words tripping over themselves. "I was just enforcing rules, I had to." But the footage didn't lie. The security cam from inside the kitchen, paired with the doorbell cam outside, showed every move, her sneaking, her forcing the latch, her shoving my son aside. As the confrontation escalated, Karen's voice went shriller, higher, desperate. "This community will fall apart if people like him keep ignoring the standards. I am protecting property values." But those words, once her weapon of fear, now fell flat, drowned by the siren, the flashing lights, the murmurs of betrayal from the very neighbors she once controlled. My kid stood taller, his voice clearer. "You don't get to scare us anymore." That line pierced through everything, and it wasn't just for her, it was for every bystander who'd swallowed her bullying for years. By the time the police rolled up, the story was no longer about a trampoline or a mailbox. It was about a woman who crossed every line of decency, who turned neighborhood pride into tyranny, who thought authority was a free pass to commit crimes. She tried one last play, pulling out a crumpled HOA violation notice from her purse as if it was a shield. But the officer's words crushed her. "Ma'am, this isn't about HOA codes. This is about breaking and entering." Handcuffs clicked shut, and the neighborhood erupted in a silence louder than any chair, a silence of disbelief that justice was finally visible, tangible, undeniable. And yet, as she was led away, a new twist landed like a stone in the pond. A neighbor stepped forward, Mr. Hernandez, usually quiet, always compliant, and revealed that Karen had been charging special fines, off the books, pocketing cash under the guise of HOA dues. He waved receipts, proof, even screenshots of bank transfers. Suddenly, Karen's window crawl wasn't an isolated meltdown. It was the eruption of years of corruption bubbling under the surface. My kid, the boy who triggered the alarm, had just sparked not only her downfall, but the unraveling of an entire fraudulent system she built. The irony was heavy. The woman who prided herself on order had dragged chaos into her own life. The one who barked about trespassers was now a criminal trespasser. The one who claimed to protect kids' safety had shoved one aside in her rage. And it all collapsed on her because a child pressed a button she thought he'd never dare touch. The police didn't waste time. They separated Karen from the crowd, her protests echoing off the cul-de-sac like a cornered animal's growl. "This is harassment. I'm the president of this community. You can't do this to me." But the officer's grip on her arm didn't loosen. Her words carried no weight anymore. Not after the footage, not after the witnesses, not after the image of her fat body wedged in my window like a burglar with a clipboard. The neighbors who used to nod obediently during her long-winded HOA speeches now looked at her with disgust, their phones recording, their whispers swelling into a tide of outrage. My son, still clutching my sleeve, whispered, "Is she going to jail, Dad?" I bent down and looked him in the eyes, steadying my voice for his sake. "Yes, son. People like her don't get to bully forever. You did the right thing." And I meant it. That alarm button he pressed was more than just a noisy, it was a signal that the neighborhood had reached its breaking point. The twist came faster than I expected. As Karen was led to the patrol car, her husband, a man I'd rarely seen outside their garage, stormed out of their house. His face was pale, sweaty, and terrified. "Don't take her, please. She's got files. She kept everything on paper. The fines, the bribes, His voice cracked, and suddenly he wasn't protecting her anymore, was spilling her secrets. The officer paused, eyes narrowing, and the murmurs exploded into gasps. Files, bribes, records. Everyone knew Karen was strict, but nobody realized how deep the corruption ran. Mrs. Liu, who lived 2 doors down, pushed forward holding a crumpled letter. "She fined me $500 last year for painting my shutters, but the HOA book never listed that as a violation. I paid her cash because she threatened to lien my home." Others joined in, waving notices, shouting dates, amounts, threats. It all spilled out, years of silent suffering finally breaking open in the flashing light of the squad car. The police officer radioed in for backup, his tone clipped and urgent, and the neighborhood transformed into a crime scene. Karen shrieked, her voice shattering. "Lies. They're all lying. I did it for order, for property values, for the good of the community." But her words sounded hollow, desperate, pathetic. She wasn't the towering authority anymore. She was a criminal caught red-handed, her empire collapsing in real time. The cameras kept rolling, the neighbors kept talking, and my son's small voice cut through the chaos again. "Why do grown-ups think hurting people is okay?" That question silenced the crowd for a beat. It wasn't just about Karen Anna Maria, it was about the system she had manipulated, the fear she had planted, the way she made ordinary families feel small in their own homes. When the second patrol car arrived, the officers headed straight into her house with her husband reluctantly guiding them. Minutes later, they emerged carrying boxes stuffed with documents, folders marked with names of families I knew, binders thick with receipts. It was all there of fake fines, the cash trails, the signatures coerced under threats. Karen's face went slack, as if the last thread holding her delusion had snapped. The confrontation reached its peak when she tried to twist free from the handcuffs, screaming that she would sue every one of us, that her lawyer would bury us in court, that we'd regret humiliating her. But this time the humiliation was her own doing. One of the officers finally barked, "Ma'am, enough. You're under arrest for breaking and entering, harassment, child endangerment, and suspected fraud." The neighbors erupted, not with cheers, but with a collective exhale of relief. Years of pent-up frustration finally had an outlet. The next days were a whirlwind. News crews showed up, drawn by the viral videos spreading online. Headlines blared. HOA president caught breaking into resident's home. Child's quick action exposes fraudulent fines. Community tyrant faces jail time. Reporters swarmed our street, interviewing families who'd been her victims. Stories surfaced of elderly couples threatened with liens, single moms forced to pay bogus citations, veterans fined for flagpoles. Each revelation painted a darker picture of Karen's reign, and each revelation made the neighbors stand taller, prouder, freer. The biggest twist came during the investigation. It turned out Karen had been funneling money into a private account, disguised as community improvement funds. Nearly $80,000 had been siphoned over the years. She'd used it to fund her vacations, her luxury handbags, Even the very alarm system she claimed was for the safety of the neighborhood, but had only been installed around her house. The betrayal cut deep. She had preached about community while stealing from it. Her downfall was brutal. The HOA board, once stacked with her allies, dissolved under public pressure. The county launched a full audit, freezing accounts, seizing assets. Karen's name, once barked in fear, became a punchline in the evening news. And my son, the little boy who pressed the alarm, became a symbol of courage. Reporters asked him what he thought of the whole mess, and his simple answer broke hearts across the city. "I just wanted to keep my dad safe." The trial was swift. Karen sat in the courtroom, her arrogance finally stripped away, her body slumped, her hair unkempt, her eyes empty. The judge read out the charges: breaking and entering, child endangerment, fraud, embezzlement, and the gavel came down with a finality that shook the room. She was sentenced to years in prison, her reputation shattered, her empire gone. The woman who once lorded over us with threats and fines was now reduced to a cautionary tale. But the ending wasn't just about her. The neighborhood changed. Without Karen's shadow, families came together. We built a community garden on the vacant lot she once hoarded for her pet projects. We repainted homes without fear of letters. We held block parties where laughter replaced paranoia. My son, shy and quiet before, became more confident, more open, proud that his small act of bravery had sparked something so big. And for me, it was more than victory. It was a reminder that justice isn't always delivered by the powerful. It can be triggered by the courage of a child pressing a button. It can be carried by the voices of neighbors who refuse to stay silent. It can rise out of chaos when people finally say, "Enough." Karen crawled through my window, thinking she could enforce her rules. But in doing so, she crawled right into her own downfall. She thought she was untouchable, but the truth was louder than her threats, stronger than her fines, and more lasting than her power. Now, when I sit on my porch at dusk, watching my kid ride his bike freely without fear of bogus citations, I can't help but smile. The community feels alive again, bound not by Karen's tyranny, but by something real: trust, resilience, and a shared sense of dignity. And that's the heart of this story, not just the fall of one entitled woman, but the rise of a community that chose courage over fear. So what do you think? Was Karen's downfall the justice she deserved, or should the neighborhood have handled it differently? Share your thoughts, because stories like this remind us all where the line between right and wrong truly lies.